Hello, I'm Sanj and welcome to the Future of Wellbeing, a meaningful conversation hosted by myself with very special individuals who genuinely and deeply care about others living their best lives. Get ready, get excited, and most importantly, enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. Hello everybody, welcome to the Future of Wellbeing. It's an absolute pleasure to have a very special guest. I know I say we have very special guests every time, but this time, is very, very special. So Hamish, thank you so much for your precious time and insights to come. I'm already excited, as you can tell, for what we're going to discuss today. But before we kick off, Hamish, I love you anyway, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself for the benefit of those watching and listening right now.
Okay, so hello, I'm Hamish Sandison. I have known Sanjeev for a number of years. We first met out in Dubai in 2017 when we both worked for a company called Deloitte, which I'm sure Sanjeev has talked about many a times. I was there for a 2-year international secondment from Deloitte London. And yeah, I've since moved back to London at the end of 2019, and I've since moved to a company called Alvarez and Marshall. And I'm an M&A tax advisor, if that means anything to anyone. But and me and Sanj are good pals.
Hey, nice. No, come on, Hamish. This is a big deal. I think this is our first video conversation since you've taken that move. So firstly, before we dive deeper into our past, but how does it feel being at a new company in COVID? Like, what's it like? What were you expecting? What's it really like?
I energized, invigorated, everything like that. I think towards the end of my days at Deloitte, everything was starting to feel a bit stale. And probably part of that was because I got it into my head that it was time to move on, and that it's hard to motivate yourself as much as possible or as much as you previously had done when you're like, right, I really don't feel like this is it for me. I don't feel like this is what I want to be doing. It was like a new lease of life. I joined just under 2 months ago, and everything since then has been absolutely incredible. Lots and lots of hard work. It hasn't all been, very happy, like amazing fun party time. I've had to work really late, but I've enjoyed it. I've all felt like I'm pushing in the right direction. Got a great team around me, great boss, infrastructure, everything like that. It's been awesome.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference. Big difference, Hamish. And when I think of you, when I think about our Deloitte days, is that you would always you'd always work hard, but two, you'd have no problem working hard. If there was a deadline late at night or over the weekend, you'd be the first person to put your hand up and say, I'll take one for the team and do it. And if you're in an environment now which supports that and encourages more of that, and you feel more inspired to do that, then what more could you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So we go way back, Hamish. 4 years. It's crazy now when you think about 4 years. But we had such a laugh. We had Christmas together. Our first Christmas in Dubai.
Oh yeah.
We spent Christmas Day together. We played FIFA, I think, in the morning, then went out in the afternoon, and we've shared so many stories, experiences, moments, events together. So it was it's really a pleasure to see, one, how you've progressed, but also for me, more importantly, you taking that next step to get more fulfillment in your job, which is something that you always loved. Like, one, again, like I said, you work very hard, but two, you also love what you do. Like, the passion that you have for what you do is off the charts. Like, I see people excited at work, and I used to envy them, and I think, how could somebody get so excited at work? And you, Hamish, were definitely one of them. I remember sitting by you, I was like, this guy just loves it.
Yeah, no, I know. It's many times people joke about how can someone be so passionate about tax, but I am, and I do really, really love my job at the heart of it, which makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially as a young man, as a man who's going to work for another 40, 50 years, loving what you do early is, something that I definitely felt inspired by from you. So let's get this going in terms of the feelings that you've got now. So moving this forward in the direction of well-being, I'd love to know, Hamish, what does well-being mean to you? So two-part question. What does well-being mean to you, and when did you start to prioritize it in your life?
So I think well-being means to me that you've got the whole package in like a good place. So you've got your sort of your mental well-being, your physical well-being, and all the other little intricacies that play into all of that. And when you are a well-being, you've sort of optimized your life in those brackets as much as possible, but also you're putting in effort to keep optimizing those as much as possible. And when did I sort of really start to focus on it? I guess previously I'd always just thought and focused on sort of the physical side, being like fit and healthy and everything like that. And everything was like, right, if you're fit and healthy, if you're going to the gym, if you're eating right, then everything will be great. And but there was another side to it, and a lot of it came about from having discussions with you, that you've actually got to sort of exercise and work your mind and your headspace, and how you view problems and issues and people getting angry with you and you getting angry with people, sort of how you exercise and work through those to get better at dealing with certain sorts of mental problems. And so it was probably in 2019 that I started to really focus on it. I mean, I think I'd listened to a bunch of podcasts where people talked about the benefits of meditation and getting your headspace into a right place, and not quite cognitive behavioral therapy, but sort of taking a moment to take a step back before you sort of react so emotionally to certain situations, and then just trying to implement small little steps bit by bit, day by day, to try and just be generally a more happy person, and just be a bit more full of life and everything like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so interesting, Hamish. Again, I would have expected you said earlier than 2019. One, because we spent time together in 2017, and I remember you you say about learning about meditation and stuff like that. I remember we used to have these conversations. I think we went to the sauna a few times as well, and we had these kinds of conversations, and gym, and you were always ahead of the curve in that aspect. You were always listening to podcasts, you were always consuming this information. But for you to say that only in 2019 you started to take it seriously, did something happen? Was there a moment or a reason why?
So actually, I think you're right. I probably reckon it was probably in 2017 I started meditating a bit, and just the simple stuff where you focus on your breath in the sauna. And I used to do it in the sauna, and then I would sort of get a bit into it. But I think in 2019, when I went to Saudi Arabia, and all of a sudden you're not in a very, no offense to the people of Saudi Arabia and all those that live and work there, you're not in the most pleasant environment. And I was working for a government organization, staying in a hotel outside of a military compound, and I would finish work every day at 3 or 4 p.m. and then you're just sort of left to yourself. And fair enough, you can go and you can work out for an hour in like a tiny hotel gym, but then the rest of it you're sort of just left with yourself and your thoughts, and you don't really have people to talk to. There's not really much to do or say, and you can find yourself getting into a very negative headspace very quickly, and sort of being like, oh, this is so bad, this is so crap, everything like that. But then I did find that there were certain things, and this is probably the first time that I really saw actually like taking well-being seriously, having like real tangible effects, that you can do certain things, try to alter your perception in whatever way, and it will just incrementally make you feel better and better. And sort of always focusing on the positives, like doing things like having a plan, always making sure that you're giving your best and getting fulfillment from whatever you're channeling your energy towards. All these little things bit by bit turned what otherwise would have been a pretty probably miserable existence for many people into something that I look back and go like, wow, that was actually great.
No, it's really powerful, Hamish. Again, especially because, again, as a young professional, you've worked and lived in lots of different places across the world. And I think those experiences now, and again, I remember when we were speaking in Dubai, we used to talk about expat life and how people should be encouraged to have those experiences. But now, you've been out there, you've come back, and now you're almost consolidated, but you're not consolidated. And this is one of the biggest myths, I think, in the world, is that time matters, yes, but experience matters more. You could have lived the same 5 or 6 years, but stayed in London and stayed with Deloitte over that time, or you could have gone and lived in Dubai, worked in Saudi for a year, come back, changed organization. And that is really, really what makes you into the version of you today.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, we talked about this in our previous one, going overseas and whether we'd recommend it. And 100%, I mean, traveling and living in other cultures and everything like that can only broaden your mind and be a positive thing. And I think if you asked a lot of my friends in London, the sort of the child that left to go to Dubai came back a man, so to speak, because I think I did do a lot of growing up.
Wow.
And I do feel like I have a wiser head on my shoulders now. Not always, but sometimes. Yeah.
The other thing I love about Hamish is your laugh, mate. I remember the laughs that we used to have in the office. So just again, for the benefit of those watching, listening, Hamish was sat behind me. We was in the same bay. So, sometimes it was just a joy just to look forward and you just hear that laugh and you just know it's Hamish. And
I was the most hated person on the office though, because I was too loud and everything like that. I mean, that was the most antisocial office environment I've ever been in my entire life. It was sort of taboo to have morning chit chat with your fellow co-workers, because Lord forgive us if ever we take away from doing chargeable client work, if only for a moment. But yeah.
No, it was very different. They're a very different experience, and I think we both learned that. The more experiences we had, the more perspectives you have, and that was a very different perspective to others. So I love those insights, Hamish, and really glad that we had the times that we did. And looking back, I think there'll only be more fun looking forwards. I mean, going forwards, but looking back and understanding that that's where we started, and it'd be interesting to see, in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years time, and we'll still have that same common ground of those experiences. So I love this, Hamish. I really, really loved your insights. I want to move on to the second question now, and that is, how has COVID impacted the way you work? So again, two-part question. How has COVID impacted the way you work? And how do you see the world of work as a concept going forward? Again, as a young person, because again, I'm fascinated for you, because you're going to be working for 40, 50 years. So how do you, one, how was it or how is it? And then two, how do you see it going forward? What's your insights?
Yeah, so for the benefit of people listening, my job, it's very project-based and it requires a lot of collaboration. So, we'll be dealing with like overseas teams who need to feed in tax input, and then you'll be dealing with specialist teams and all of this sort of stuff. And you all have to collaborate together to produce a deliverable for a client, basically. And when the pandemic first happened, the thing that made it most difficult was collaboration became a lot harder when you weren't sat in a room with your team. And as great as video conference calls and everything like that have been, it's just not as efficient, and it's just not the same. So, I mean, that was a difficulty. And especially, I mean, I was in a position where I was slightly more senior. So I'm not sort of like the little, chimney sweep anymore. But a lot of the juniors in my team, normally they would learn a lot just by being sat in a room by people having a discussion. Obviously, they don't quite have the skill set and the knowledge and expertise yet to contribute a great deal. But they sort of sit there as sponges, learning and absorbing everything that's going around them. It gets a whole lot harder to do that when all of a sudden you purposefully have to call someone up to discuss something. And if you're doing that, you're not necessarily going to always be like, right, let's call the junior in as well so we can call this person. So just collaboration and sort of apprenticeship, I think, was impacted massively. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame when you think about my junior years in London. Those first 2 years, I learned so much. If I look at somebody who was in lockdown for those 2 years, how much less might they've learned?
But also, fair enough. I just want to interrupt you quickly there, because I remember really well that, towards my final few weeks and months at Deloitte, you started hosting those events. I remember you had like tax catch-ups where you would take the bunch of the team and go into a meeting room and have that conversation.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you could sort of, we'd all sit in the room and we'd all collaborate together. And when you're in a room and not on video call, people can talk a bit more naturally. There's less of a lag and a time delay. And if two people talk over one another, it's sort of dealt with in a more natural manner. Whereas I feel like when you're on a video call, when two people speak at the same time, you're like, So I mean, just for me personally, it was great that we could go and work from home, given everything that was going on, but it wasn't optimal for what I do. I'm sure there are lots of businesses that it is optimal, and that's fantastic, but for mine, not so much. So moving forward, when we talk about this new normal, my preference personally will be to be in the office a lot, just so that we can collaborate efficiently. I'm sure it won't be 5 days a week, but it probably will be at least 3. And then not only that, it is just really lovely and nice coming into the office, and then again just seeing people that you wouldn't normally maybe deliberately call to have a chat with. The whole like classic, the water cooler chat, like in an American context, you like go to the water cooler, get yourself a glass of water. There's Bill from accounting, and you can have a nice, lovely chat from Bill from accounting. Like you're probably not going to be at home and video call Bill from accounting out of the blue, but if you see him at the water cooler, you can have a nice chat. And I feel like those sort of interactions are actually quite important. And I think at the end of the day, because we are such sociable, animals, I do think I think maybe when we work from home, we were trying to underplay how much we do just need normal human interaction. And I think there will be a push where, fine, people might work from home 3 days a week or whatever, but I think slowly but surely that might creep back up. And I think we'll see at least 3 days a week, 4 days a week in the office.
I love that. And again, as somebody who you feed off the energy of other people as well. You maybe more so than most other people. And again, especially within tax, stereotypically, a lot of people would rather be sat behind the keyboard, would rather not have those water cooler conversations. But again, if you have them, often you are better for them because they happen. And then that means when you go and work with Bill, because you've broken that ice and you've got a little bit of a relationship, you can then get to what you need to get to just like that.
Yeah. Massively, yeah.
Oh, very interesting. No, I like that, Hamish. And what about, because again, I want to go a little bit deeper into what do you think about the travel element of it? Because again, as somebody who would go, talk us through your Saudi experience. Was it on one, so share a little bit about your commute to Saudi, but also how do you see things like that going forward?
Yeah, so I was sent on an informal secondment arrangement, basically, to a client in Saudi Arabia. And it required me to be in Saudi for 5 working days a week. And so I would fly in from Dubai first thing on Sunday morning. Obviously, the Arabic work week runs from Sunday to Thursday. So I'd either fly late on a Saturday night, but normally I wouldn't want to waste a night. I'd rather sleep in my bed back in Dubai in my lovely apartment. And so I'd leave first thing on Sunday morning, work until Thursday afternoon, and fly back Thursday afternoon, and then spend Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night in Dubai. And that wasn't great. And obviously there'll be a big part of me that would go, in an ideal world, I really wish I wouldn't have to spend 6 hours a week flying back and forward from Dubai, because I think it would take me 3.5 hours door to door, perhaps, from my flat in Dubai to my desk in Saudi. I think it was 3.5 hours. So so I'm spending 7 hours a week traveling, which isn't fantastic. But then also, this was a very special situation where I was working for a government organization where you weren't allowed to take any of their data off site. Everything had to be done locally. So I don't really see how you could work around that. But yeah, but then again, also we were doing so many meetings and all of that sort of stuff that, again, had it been over Zoom, it just wouldn't have been the same experience. And for me personally, for the rest of my life, I will remember this time that I was sort of parachuted into Saudi Arabia and got this ridiculous experience, got to talk to all of these, people who were Saudi nationals working for, their mother ship entity that is the proudest, thing in Saudi Arabia. And you wouldn't have had that had you were just sat behind a computer screen. I would have just come across as like another advisor. And then every time you have a call, it's about work. Just not really the same. Yeah.
Wow. And what do you see about secondments like that, or like business trips like that going forward? Even maybe say on a more local basis, do you see people, or do you vision people going from central London to zone 3 for a meeting, or even across zone 1? Do you see that?
I'm not sure, actually. So within London, I still think there's value. I mean, if I'm thinking from my perspective, right, if I'm trying to win work from a client, there is an element of showing your dedication by turning up. And then not only that, you can come across so much more personable when you're not on a screen. And so from my perspective, if I was going to go meet a client, I would always push to go to them as much as possible. Just because, you can you can have a
That's
more
just the
personal
type of
conversation.
guy you are.
Like, because like you log on to a call, right? And like, oh, is Johnson here? No. Oh, we're waiting for Matilda. Blah 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 blah. And you're like all just sat in silence. And somebody's like, right. So how's it where you guys? And someone's like, yeah, the weather's good. Whereas I feel like when you're sort of in a meeting room, that sort of chit chat happens more naturally, and it doesn't feel as sort of like stiff and everything like that. Because yeah, like I said, I think we've had what, like hundreds of thousands of years as human beings registering and understanding other human emotions on a live basis, looking at someone face to face and seeing everything like that. Now all of a sudden we're doing it through a computer screen, where even if things are off by like a millisecond, I think you subconsciously pick up on that, and it doesn't quite feel as natural. Like we've said, I mean, the times when we've met up and we've gone for lunch, and it has been like, oh, a lot more jokey and everything like that. Whereas I feel like when we first log onto a call, I don't know, it's not the same really.
No,
it's just no matter what, it could be 95% the same, but there's still something a little bit missing. And I do think we just subconsciously do pick up on that. So yes, I personally would always push for face-to-face meetings. And so for instance, with my new role here, there's a certain focus where I'm going to be looking to target clients still in the Middle East. And the big thing I've always said is that we need to, if we're going to target them and be serious about them, especially what it's like in the Middle East, that I think they do appreciate face-to-face interaction and the feeling that you're actually investing in them, rather than being some sort of, you know, whatever advisors in London who think they can do it all from here. No, show you're dedicated, show you're actually willing to, you know, come and meet them, show you care, and yeah, come and meet them face-to-face, walk the corridors, shake their hands, take them for lunch, do all of that.
I love that. Very interesting. Very interesting.
I sounded so bloody corporate then. Jesus, what have I become?
Hey, you are. You are.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Last two questions, Hamish. Conscious we've got to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. So question 3 is about leadership. And as somebody who's gone through the ranks, experienced many different types of leaders, some we both know that you actually love, some we both know you absolutely felt the opposite. And as somebody who will go into, you already have, but you will go further up that chain where you will have more opportunities to lead. What would you say are two traits that a world-class leader should display? Just two.
Yeah, so first one, communication. So I feel that's so critical, that if you're a leader, being able to effectively communicate what the goal is, what the mission is, you know, is just so important, whether it's delivering good news, whether it's delivering bad news. The way they communicate is so key. Like because we do sometimes when a good message is communicated poorly, it doesn't have the same impact. And then similarly, when a bad message is communicated poorly, it can be catastrophic, right? I mean, if we use our mutual boss that we used to have, there were certain times where he would say something, and it would make you angry, like really, really upset or whatever it might be. Because he just communicated it really poorly. I remember there was one time where he basically said, like, certain people aren't getting paid more or whatever, but also at the end of the day, guys, you should just be really grateful you've all got a job. And I was like, okay. And that just immediately upset everyone. So yeah, good communication skills.
In that meeting. I think we just stood at the back.
And all of us were unbelievable. Well, they just put up all of our, you know, figures and how well we've done and beaten all of these targets. And then for him to go like, oh yeah, but we're still not going to pay people more and all of this or that. And you should just be grateful you have jobs. So yeah, effective communication is key. Second one, I think, I'm trying to figure out how to say this properly, but it's
communicate. Think about how you communicate.
Learning agility, would that be it? Your ability to learn new things, adopt new ideas, look at things from a different perspective, and not just be so rigid in your, this is the way that management is done, blah, 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 blah. Always be, I mean, the pace of the world at the moment, it just feels like it's moving so quickly. And I feel like the best leaders are those that can sort of adapt their approach and adapt, you know, their team and their output and everything like that to mold whatever's going on in the world. And there's sort of another part of it where, because there is just so much information flying around at the moment, having the ability to actually pick out and understand which bits are key and prioritize on those bits as well. So it's just sort of, having a very, an agile mindset to everything. And
which is wild, because before COVID, before the pandemic, there was too much information. Everything was changing rapidly anyway. So now it's just been exacerbated. So, it becomes even more important. Last question, Hamish, is, again, as somebody who's worked within lots of different teams across the world and, now in a new organization as well, what would you say Hamish Sandison's one top tip to sustain well-being within a team is? What would you say there, Liz?
Empathy. I think always just be empathetic to what people are going through, especially in coronavirus. You have no idea how difficult it can be for whatever their situation is at home. So just be as empathetic as possible and communicate as much as possible, and always give people the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about this in one of your previous podcasts where we were walking out of DIFC and this guy nearly hit us with his car.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had a chat about, like, we both obviously were like, effing and jeffing or whatever. But then we're like, well, that guy could have been having the absolute worst day of his life. He could have just been coming from hospital and was really stressed out or whatever. And so therefore he wasn't fully concentrating. And just all of a sudden then you don't feel angry. You're like, oh, okay, I know it's fair. You rationalize it a bit more. And I think that's sort of a similar approach that we should take, in this world. Just be really empathetic. You don't know what could be going on at home. You don't know what could be going on elsewhere. Just, give them the benefit of the doubt. Be as empathetic as possible, and don't just always react to that surface level anger or whatever it might be that arises first.
And you say that so simply, but to execute it is really
it's bloody hard, and it's. I mean, I've been trying to do it a lot more at the moment. Where I've got a situation with a friend of mine, let's say, and he's been doing a lot of things out of character at the moment. And there are so many times where you could just take something at the face value and be like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Why is this person doing that? But then when you take a step back and you go like, right, well, actually through the coronavirus, they've really been struggling. They've been living by themselves. They've been struggling with X, Y, and Z. Let's, pull that to the front and be like, hey, because of that, this now might explain that a bit better. Let's just, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. No, I love that, Hamish. Conscious of time, and I know you got to go, but I appreciate your time so much, Hamish. I'm going to stop the recording in a second. But any final words from Hamish Sandison?
No, just thank you very much for having me, Sanjeev. And it has been, incredible watching you flourish into such a lovely young man and a well-being mentor and everything like that. And I'm just incredibly proud and grateful to have you in my life. And it's just awesome seeing you go from strength to strength. So very, very happy and proud of you.
No, I appreciate that a lot, Hamish. I'll play that a little bit to my mum. She'll be more happy. But
good.
Hamish, I'm going to stop recording now, and we'll see you soon. Wowie, what an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for making time to watch The Future of Wellbeing, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode with another very, very special guest. Until then, stay well, stay safe, and take care. Ciao, ciao.